Give me a minute and let's talk about where U.S. aid to Ukraine goes first. Because we cannot say this shit enough. We are not putting pallets of cash onto C-130s and flying them into Kyiv. That's not a thing. What happens instead is we send our stockpiles of weapons to Ukraine. Weapons, by the way, some of which were paid for by Reagan. The production date on those ATACMS is 1986, 87, 88. So please, you gotta be kidding me. They've been sitting in a warehouse for 40 years. Let's put them to some good use, shall we? So we send those weapons, we clean out the garage and the attic, basically. Send that old shit to Ukraine where it can do some real damage. And it is fun to watch, 40-year-old U.S. weapons just kick Russia's so-called fifth generation weapons asses. And then what happens? Well, then we need shiny new stuff for ourselves. So what do we do with that money? We send it to defense contractors in the United States to build us shiny new shit and outfit our guys with the latest and greatest. That's what happens to the money. Now, on this map was published by the Kyiv Post. Thank you, Kyiv Post. It's a great map, and it shows the 27 states that get the most of that aid immediately. However, there are 11 more states. 38 of the 50 states have defense contractors that will benefit from this package. I want to do a special call out here. We blow the map up, and you see those two orange dots right there in the northeast corner of Pennsylvania? That's my hometown. That's Scranton, PA. Those are the General Dynamics facilities. General Dynamics operates the Chamberlain plant in Scranton. That's one of their two facilities. And right now, the guys at Chamberlain are churning out 24,155 millimeter rounds a month for Ukraine. Good on you. Good on you. My cousin's husband, Charlie, just bought himself a brand new F-150 with all his overtime pay. Congratulations, Chuckles. Good job, pal. And so to all the crew in Scranton, big thanks from Ukraine. I want to mention something else here, because this goes to the question of wartime economies. Now, you may have heard me say that wartime economies are cannibalistic, and that the good economy that we're seeing in Russia, where the IMF is predicting a 3.6% economic growth next year, is down to military spending, but that military spending is cannibalistic, that it burns itself out because you're producing war materials that don't generate any profits, that get used up and don't contribute to the consumer economy. So you can ask yourself, well, Pete, how is that different from what we're seeing here? It's very different. Here's why. In Russia, the average annual salary of a factory worker working in the defense sector has gone up this year from $12,000 a year to $15,000 a year. These guys are making 15 grand a year to produce 152 millimeter Soviet-sized shells over in Russia. That means that the people at the top, right? My cousin and her, well, I won't tell you how much money they make because she'll be mad at me. But to suffice it to say that between the two of them, they make roughly 13 times that income. So where does the other 12 times of the income for a Russian go? It goes into the pockets of the oligarchs who hang on to it, who hoard it. My cousin's husband, Chuck, he just bought himself a brand new truck, a very expensive truck. Sorry, Chuck. Very expensive truck because he can afford it. Now that money goes into the dealership. That money goes back to Detroit. That money, right? These guys, they're eating out every Friday at Cooper's, spending $100 on dinner for the two of them, easy, before drinks. I'm not making a comment on Chuck's drinking, Abigail. I'm not doing that. Anyway, whatchamacallit, yeah, I am. Yeah, I totally am. They got a thing at Cooper's. They have 100 different kinds of beer, right? And if you try every single kind of beer, they put your name on a plaque on the wall. Chuck's got 2 plaques. That's not even a joke. Anyway, the point is that Abby and Chuck, they spend the money. We call that the velocity of money in economics. It goes into the community. It goes into the pockets of waiters and restaurant owners and car dealers and the food truck that sits on the corner of Penn Avenue or Coney Island hot dogs. The money goes into the community. It accelerates the pace of the economy. It doesn't get hoarded by a bunch of oligarchs at the top who want to be able to buy and sell living human beings. That's the difference. The defense sector in the United States is about 4% of the economy. Even with the big dumps that we're seeing into it now, it's still only about 4% of the economy. We're not counting on the defense spending to save our asses. It's the only thing keeping the Russians afloat right now. And when they run out of cash, when they can't print more rubles to keep it going, and the pension checks to the old people stop, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. And then we're going to be faced with a moral crisis. Because when this happened to the Soviet Union back in the early 1990s, we fed the Russians. We sent them food. We kept them from starvation, only to have them rise up and do this to us and spend the last 20 years trying to undermine the institutions of our democracies in the West. Are we going to feed them this time when they're starving? I don't know the answer to that. But I think we better think long and hard about what they're going to give us before we start feeding them. Because we need some real change in whatever pieces are left of the Russian Empire after it falls apart this time. On the subject of economies falling apart and people going broke, this video is sponsored by Hobo. Hobo is a member of the Patreon, a longtime supporter of the channel, a great guy who's always got insightful comments in the comments and in the lives, and whose support I deeply appreciate. I literally could not do this without the Patreon folks, and Hobo has been one of the stalwart supporters for many months now. So thank you, brother. I really appreciate you. And if you would like a call out and a video sponsorship every month, just join the Patreon at the Dobrovicher level or higher. The link is in the bio. Thank you.